Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm going to introduce Liz and Carl in a minute, but first I want to just give you a once-over of the room here with the show so you can get an idea of what they're going to be talking about.
Where's the show?
So this is the Central Gallery room at Artist Collective of Hyde Park. And as long as you're seeing it right, yes. Hopefully you're getting a good view here of the beginning of Liz's work. Liz has some, there's an acrylic on canvas. She's got oil painting. She's got mixed media here, these beautiful large plants that I just love. And more mixed media. There's a lithograph. So we have quite a range of her art in this show, which is marvelous to see. And here she has some embossed etchings. And I don't know how well you can see those, but they're really amazing. If you can't see them well on here, by all means, try to make it in before the end of January. You got plenty of time because these are beautiful in person. If you can see the subtle detail online, I hope so. Here's a lithograph, another embossed etching. And here's an embossed etching that she painted as well, I believe. And here we have some paintings, some metal pieces that she printed. So we have quite a variety here. And then let's look at Carl's. There's Carl waiting in the wings. Carl's been doing sculpture for a long, long time. He has some larger pieces. Of course, they're all over the front yard. So if you are terrified to come in the gallery, you can come to the front yard and still see lots of his work. And he's been doing smaller pieces more recently, which are beautiful and easy to carry. And oftentimes less expensive even. So it's a win-win-win. I love these that he has down here, these reliefs, just wonderful. And a couple of smaller pieces over here. And there's Carl, and he's looking very Italian. Okay. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to let them get started.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carl. I'm the sculptor. I guess most of you know me anyway. I hope. And I hope we got new people. Come on in.
Speak up, everybody.
What are you doing with my chisel and hammer? She's stealing my work.
And you have my paintbrushes.
Oh, I'm trying to be a painter too.
Oh, well. How about if we switch?
If that could ever work, I don't know. You think so?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is our show that we're having. Liz and I are sharing the room together. And I'd like to show this piece right here, this small piece. This was during the virus. I had a lot of time on my hands and I carved it in mind of the coronavirus. This part here, the way it goes up, it's abstracted. The arms are raised up in the air of someone in distress. And here you have tears coming down. So that's my virus sculpture that I've done. And some of these you may have seen. This one is my Madonna. This piece here is Vermont marble. Mostly all my marble comes from Vermont, or that virus piece is limestone. That comes from Indiana. Indiana limestone or marble is my medium. Mainly, that's the main medium that I use. And I do work with cement outside my pieces in the yard, huge pieces. They're all cement constructions. And then here is my mother and child. This one here is another one I did during the Corona time. That's another creation of my Corona period. Mother and child limestone from Indiana. And I had a block of limestone and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just took a few pencil marks on it, sketched I had no plan at all. Usually I direct carve. I go right into the stone, I'll throw a few lines on a stone, follow the lines through, and whatever is there, it comes out on, that's the way I work, what I call direct carving, mainly direct carving. I do work from models sometimes, or a sketch. And there's another limestone piece here. This one here is Indiana limestone. This piece here is an experiment. This is a piece that I was teaching. I do teach, and I was teaching someone, and I wanted to make it easy for them. Instead of carving marble as a beginner, I took plaster, and I cast the plaster, and the plaster. I don't do any more casting. Casting is out of my curriculum. I just don't like it. It actually bores me, to tell you the truth. But this here, I carved it out of plastic with some tools, just like you do sculpting, but no hammer and chisel. You can almost work with your hand, just carve it right out. And that's
But you didn't use your fingernails though, right? I mean,
no, sometimes, but no. No. And oh, this piece is interesting. This is one of my first very early pieces when I was studying.
oh,
And I was studying with the maestro. And this piece of marble came from St. Francis Hospital. As I was a mason, I made my day job as a mason. We replaced the steps in St. Francis years ago, the old St. Francis. And my helper was throwing the stone in the dumpster, and they were all broken up. So I said, "Don't do that." I said, "Throw them in the back of my truck." So I took it home. I took a bunch of these pieces home. Recycled. This stone is quite old. It was worn out steps. So I looked at the stone and I said, I know what I can do. It's antiquity. It looks like something from the old Greek Roman ruins. Broken piece, that someone picked up. So that's where it inspired me that way. So that's an early piece. It's not for sale. This piece is not for sale.
oh, and I like that one.
Well, we can talk about it if you really need. I can't refuse.
You can't offer, you can't refuse.
This piece, this here was an accident. You know what happens? Sometimes we do have problems with stone. There's a vein in the stone right here. And I'm carving. When you have a vein, you cross the vein. You never go direct to it because it's going to break right off. So I was carving across very gently. And the piece, all of a sudden, I turn around and I see this laying on the ground. It just fell right off. So originally, this piece has changed. I was going to carve the inside of this, hollow it out, where you would see right through it. But when I hit that vein, I says, no, I can't do it. It just isn't going to work. So the stone talked to me. The stone told me it didn't want to cooperate with me. Stone is stubborn. I'm stubborn, but stone is really stubborn. So I had to listen to the stone. That's how it came out. Direct carving, that's what it is. This here is Italian Carrara marble, this piece. A friend of mine, sculptor, his name was Raul Riley. Quite a guy, quite an interesting guy. He left the area. He went back to the state of Washington. And in his stone yard, he had all over the place. He couldn't carry it on the airplane. So he said, would you want some of the stone that I have? I said, sure. So he made a deal. I went over his house and we looked at it. He said, I got a nice piece of Carrara if you want it. So I said, sure, I'll take it because it's very hard to get. This thing weighs almost 300 pounds. So picture coming across on a ship, the cost of the stone. It's just out of my reach because a lot of these stones are speculation and, it's they're heavy and they're expensive. but I was lucky enough to get it. And that's about it. And this here is clay. I was doodling with that one time. I do fool around with clay, which I carve again. I studied molding, modeling and all that, but it was very boring to me in class. I was I didn't take to it. I don't know if this will work. This is from the walkway when I had the relief carving on the walkway. Let me see if it works.
Show the video.
Yeah, we can try showing
We're
it.
gonna try.
I don't know how well it'll show up online, but we'll go through it. So this is the relief you carved on the walkway, of the walkway.
Is it working?
It's moving, but I don't know
We
how.
can
well
see
we're-
the people, we can't really see the relief.
Send the link.
Yeah, maybe we could put it online and show it to them later if it's not showing up too well.
It's not, okay, fine.
Okay.
And here's the tools. Here's some of the tools. I'll start out with this first. These are the points. These points I use, this is the beginning of the carving. These are actually the pencil to the stone carving. I mean, they do a lot of work. You can sketch with them almost on the stone. But I start out with a point, and after the point, we go to the tooth chisels. They have these fine teeth on them. And most of these chisels, I get them out of a plant up in Vermont. They make them up there for the stone trade. And a lot of my hand chisels came from Italy. And the files, these files, they come from Italy. They're handmade by a blacksmith in Italy. Expensive stuff to obtain. Okay, so I use the tooth chisel. And after the tooth chisel, I got this rough looking piece of rock. Then after the tooth chisel, I use a finer tooth. Very fine tooth. We go to a very smooth, it still carves with these teeth, shows you tooth lines on it. After that process, I take a flat chisel and I take all the lines off. I have to scrape them all off. You know, I just hammer away, take all the line of the tooth chisel off. Now we call that modeling. Now I'm modeling the piece. And as I go through it, I can correct, I can improve, and you know, it doesn't take out that much stone. So it works slowly. And I hope I'm not taking up too much time on my other artist friend here. This is the air chisel. When I do these big pieces, I use the air tools. But I really enjoy more than anything when I'm working by hand. It's just a good feeling to feel that chisel penetrating the rock, chips flying. It's all, that's what it's all about to me. Stone is mine. It's it. Everything that I do, I have no other mediums that I work with besides cement. I don't paint. I don't do anything else in the arts. This is what I do. I hope I'm not taking up too much time for Liz.
No, you're good.
Anything
Very
else?
good.
Take this moment to just see if anybody's put any questions in here in the chat. Okay, here's Charlotte. Charlotte, you sent us some nice questions,
Oh, I forgot.
which we should cover. Let's see, what else did you say here? Oh, okay, well, sorry, I can only watch, I can only hold it the other way and not see what you guys are doing, so.
Okay, what do you want to do?
All right, so Charlotte had sent some questions. I'm just gonna bring them up again. Hold on a second. Okay, so Charlotte wants to know, how did you decide to become an artist? What was the process or journey that you
Okay.
followed?
Okay.
And specifically, she asked if you had been an apprentice as a young man
This is easy.
And, or, or how did you get into it, basically? And was your family in the business? Was anyone in your family a sculptor? And also they're asking if Frank, your brother, who is a painter, is also a sculptor.
Okay, Frank is not a sculptor. He took up painting quite late in life. He was a mason in the mason business, trade with me. My family, my father, my grandfather, they're all in the masonry business. And we work with stone, we work with plaster, we work with cement, all the mediums of the mud trades we've done, tile.
The mud
Right.
trades. huh?
Yeah, we call that the mud trades. I started, I'll tell you how I became an artist. I wanted to become an artist. I'm still trying. Hold on, I'm trying to become an artist. I started out, when I was about 8 years old, my godmother gave me a paint set. And I got all excited about it. And I ran down the basement. My father had this workshop. And I set up a studio. Look, I was fantasizing that I was someone famous. I'm a famous sculptor, painter, artist. And I set up a studio in the basement and I played and I just fantasized. I was a dreamer all my life, I guess. Most artists are. So I forgot about that after I got older and I found out I discovered girls. I started high school. I ended up getting married. I met a sweetheart and art was gone. I mean, then I had to worry about making a living. 2 kids came. I had to hustle to make a buck, but I was in the mason trade. We worked with all those, the same mediums that I'm working with now. But when I got out of, I don't want to go too far, but a friend of mine challenged me. He says, I want to see you do some sculpting in stone. You work with stone, but let me see you sculpting. So I started taking lessons and I studied with a great sculptor, Emilio Joseph Finelli, out of Millbrook. He's gone now. And he was my mentor. And Raul Riley too, he was another one. So that's about it. And here I am still, Michelangelo said, I'm still learning. That's all I can say. Anything else? Oh, I did answer the question about Frank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? You guys can unmute or you can type something in the chat room.
How long have you been the sculptor? Did you start after you retired?
No, I started in the 70s.
Oh,
I started sculpting in the 70s. I was involved, I don't know if you old time Poughkeepsie people would remember, there used to be the old police station in Poughkeepsie. There was an artist, Paul Gershwitz. He had an art group going there at that time. And he set up like a museum. You should remember that, Liz. And that's where I had my first showing of sculpture. And Paul Gershwitz was my first teacher. Then I went to Mr. Finelli, and I was involved with Raul, which he helped me out a lot too. And I'm still learning again, I say.
Okay,
I
anybody
have
else?
a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondered, Carl, how long does your pieces take? I mean, is there an average amount of time that it takes you to complete a piece?
Good question. I've been sculpting since the 70s. When I first started, a piece like this, I would say between cutting it out of the block, preparing it, sketching it, it took me maybe 4 or 5 months.
Wow, I could believe that.
This is when I was sort of feeling my way into the stone. I did 2 heads, 2 busts, which I don't have here. If everybody was interested in my art, I have a yard full at my house too. It took me 6 months for each head. It took me a year to do 2 heads. Now, people wonder why my prices are reasonable, but why we get so much. But it took me a year because it was a study and I had to go from a model to the stone. I had to take measurements from the model and turn around and project it into the stone with a pointograph. I think you know what that is, Liz, right? And you would know maybe too. But it was a tedious process. What my teacher told me, this is what you gotta, the way you have to learn the beginning, the procedure, and that was the basics. And so then I decided, I got a little more radical, and I said, I want to be a direct carver. And that's what I do now. I'm a little more abstract, and I like it better because it's imagination from me. I don't copy. It's boring to copy from another piece. It gets boring to artists like me, I guess. I don't know. But I work direct now, and I like that much better. I got more freedom. How's that?
That's great. It's awesome. You do beautiful work.
Thank you.
You're
Come and
welcome.
see us. Come and see us. We got a lot of work outside. We have great.
Yeah,
art here.
I haven't been in a while. I miss it there, and
Yeah.
hopefully with masks will come out.
Yes. It's coming soon with the vaccine. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I better let Liz in there. She's getting impatient. She's going to throw that hammer at me if I don't move out of the way. Okay? Nice talking
Yes.
to you guys. Ciao.
Okay, and here is Elizabeth St. Ledger. Let me say that again without choking. Elizabeth St. Ledger.
Hi there. I gotta tell you what, Carl's gonna be a hard one to try to follow.
No.
Not only is he funny and he can talk and he's got, the Italian gestures going on, but
But you're
his work-
Italian too.
I
You
know.
can keep up.
His work is amazing. In fact, when I realized that the two of us were gonna have this exhibition together, I got really excited because he does a lot of the things that I love to do in terms of dimensional things. Now, a painter,
You've taken lessons.
I don't know what he said.
You had
You were
lessons
taking
that you
lessons.
took with me.
That you took lessons with
Can I
him,
get in there a minute?
sculpting lessons.
Yeah, go ahead, get in there.
Liz took lessons with me for a while. She wanted to be a stone carver. It was a ball for me. When I gave her the hammer, she says, "Oh my God, it's so heavy." But she did very well. She did very well. I'll tell you that. I just wanted to say that.
I still didn't finish the piece.
And she's the old school when it comes to painting. I got to say that.
So anyway, I lost my, okay, so Carl was gonna do this thing and I was gonna do it behind him. So I wanted to kind of get a cohesive idea of the show kind of fitting together. So I put a lot of my pieces that were sculptural, and these are etchings. And etchings are actually making something actually a relief. So where he's working 3D, where you can go around it and you can touch it, you can feel it. Most of the things I do in the paintings are 2D that are an illusion to being 3D. But these pieces are actually sculptural themselves because they are reliefs. And when the lighting's on them, if you can see them just right, you can see the actual shadow in them. So what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about reliefs. No, I need that. About reliefs and about how you do them. But before I do that, I just want to say one or two things about the gallery. So we've been here now for 8 years, a little over 8 years now. And how we started was Barbara and Carl's wife Marilyn and I got together and we discussed getting something going in Hyde Park. And after we thought it was a good idea that we could actually do it, we talked to maybe 10 or 12 other artists in the area who were interested in joining with us in this venture. Then we found this house, which belongs to John Golden, who is such a big supporter of the arts and of Hyde Park He's really our patron. So we took this house over and we came in as artists and we cleaned everything up, painted, repainted, refixed things, fixed some holes that needed to be fixed, plastered. We did a lot of work in here. And then it took us about a month and we finally opened. And that was 8 years ago and we're still here. We have 5 rooms. We espouse emerging artists as well as artists that have been doing things like Carl for probably, I don't know how many years you've been sculpting, but a very long time. And myself, I've been painting for over 35. So, and we've got a range of artists, young ones all the way up to us older guys.
So you've been painting since you were 4 years old.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. So I wanted to say that we're here. We espouse the community. We try to do things for the community. And when there was no COVID, we had an open mic, which was pretty popular. And people would come in and bring their instruments and they would sing. We'd have a sound system set up, and that was pretty popular. But we don't do that anymore, at least for now.
Just because of COVID mainly.
Yeah, mainly because of COVID. So anyway, I want to talk about embossed etching. Can you show this? Can anybody see that?
Can you see the whole thing on the Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see that there are parts here, and maybe you can't see, that are etched. And so they're raised from the substrate of the piece itself. And I brought in the original plate, which is a beautiful thing in itself, except that now is warped. But anyway, this is the original plate that I etched. Now, you can etch on copper, you can etch on this, which is zinc. Metal, it's metal. And then the process is to take your piece of metal and you cover it with a ground. And the ground that you cover the whole thing with is resistant to acid, which this is eventually dipped into. And then you have your idea for your painting or your drawing or whatever it is you're going to do. And you take a tool and you carve into the ground. And it removes the ground, and what's left is the metal. And so after you're done and you're happy with the way everything looks, you dip the whole plate into acid. And most people don't leave it in there very long. And when it comes out, you ink it up, and that's an etching. But I wanted mine to be more of a relief. So I decided, like all of these, to leave the plate in there this was in there for days. And I kept going back and forth, watching it. And then I pulled it out, and then you ink it up. And after you ink it up, then you print it. And you use this beautiful printmaking paper, BFK or Arches, or one beautiful paper after another. Boy, they feel so good. You have to dampen them, and then you press the plate into it with a printing press. But I brought 3 of them. That this one obviously is developed, but these 3 I never developed, and they're sitting upstairs in one of the portfolios that I have. Someday I'll develop them. So here's one.
Wow.
So what I would do with this, if I was going to develop it like this one, is paint in the goose. And then pretty much I think I would be finished with it. And Barbie, I don't know if you can feel the raised parts of it.
Right. Cool.
And the cool thing about this too is the plate, when you leave it in the acid, the edges get worn away too, which helps also to make the relief part of it. And I have 2 more that are not developed, that again, one of these days I'll do something with. And this is a gray one, and this is a lighter one. So The difference is what kinds of inks you use. The inks are all oil-based and they're viscous, they're very thick, and they come in a lot of colors. So you have to roll it all on, and that's how you get the different colors. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that so that you could see that there's a big, long process in how to get some of this done. This piece and this piece are lithographs. Now, Carl was talking about,
What's a lithograph?
that's what I'm going to tell you. Carl was telling you about his carvings in limestone. This is your limestone piece, right? Is that one too? Okay, so here's a piece of limestone that Carl carved from. Now, when you do a lithograph, at least the way I used to do them, is you get a piece of limestone, it's about this thick, and however wide you want to work with. So it's so, about this thick. It's so heavy that you can't lift it yourself. You have to get this contraption. It's like pumping up a car when you want to change a flat tire. Not that I do that. And then it gets to the level where your table is. You push it off on the table, and then you get this grinder. You have to wet it, and then you get this powder you put on this gritty, and you put it on top of the limestone. And then there's this big round grinder that's got a handle on it. And you sit there and you grind it and you grind it and grind it and grind it and grind it until you can't do it anymore. And then maybe somebody else will do it for you for a while until it's totally flat and has no image on it at all. The reason it's so thick, part of it is because it takes a lot of pressure to get the image to print. But also you can keep grinding that and using it over and over again. After you're finished pulling your however many prints you want, you can take that same stone, grind it again, and you can start all over again. So that's how this one was done. And that's how this one was done. So the other things that I have here, I was experimenting. I sometimes like to work big, and I was experimenting with some of those canvases that are gallery canvases, so you don't have to frame them. That's a more contemporary look, which is what my kids like. And what I did was I went and got some organic material, and I put 2 white canvases. There they are. You can see the side of them are white. And I laid the organic material out on the canvases and very carefully took some spray and sprayed over it. Okay, so then the black is the spray. Then you lift off the material, and what's left underneath is the white. And then I went back into that and developed that with my paint. So that was kind of a fun thing to do.
So that's how you got those really beautiful highlights, white highlights on it.
I painted those
Makes it
in.
really makes it pop.
Yeah, well, the white is there from the canvas, and then
Gotcha.
depending on how you use your brush, you can make this very sculptural looking, but depending on how heavy your hand is with your brush. If you lighten up your brush, you get something like that. If you use your paint a little bit heavier, you get something like that, which is very sculptural, which I thought, oh, this is going to be great with Carl's show. Okay, so over here, I've shown this painting before. It's a landscape, and I love to do landscapes, and that's just one of them. There's one that's more modern. And then the one next to it, that round one, is just another experiment that I tried with the pouring paint. So I've had fun. I don't always do the same thing. I used to work in oils. I don't do that anymore because I'm too old and I already have too many toxics in me from the studio. Because to work with this stuff, you have to use alcohol and hydrochloric acid and all kinds of other things. And, I had enough of that. So now I work with acrylics, and, sometimes I work with mixed media. Sometimes I work with pastels. But that's what I'm doing now. Also, there are more paintings over here. And some of the paintings I had made into little metal prints, which are nice because they're kind of intimate size and people like them. I like them myself. I used a lot of them for Christmas presents. So how did I get started? I think how I got started was where I grew up was the downtown Italian section of Poughkeepsie, which was so full of texture and smells and a lot of commotion and a lot of beauty. There were two churches right like within walking distance of where I lived. And when I went into the churches, there were all these beautiful stained glass windows staring at me with the sun coming through and the vibrant colors. And on the ceilings were angels and, you know, beautiful clouds and beautiful sculptured statues. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I must be, you know, in some place I wanna do this. I wanna know more about this. And then when I was in grade school, some nun, because I had all nuns, gave me a Michelangelo picture because they always gave you like these cards with prayers and stuff on them. But this one was Madonna in the chair. I think it was Michelangelo or Leonardo, I forget which one. But I looked at that and I couldn't believe that something looked so beautiful in a painting. I was little, I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And those things always stayed with me. So then on top of being downtown in that one area, practically under the walkway, with all the flowers and the sounds of the trains and the sculpture around and the colors, and my grandparents who had gardens and tomatoes and beans and grapevines, it was very visual. So I think that's how I ended up where I am now. And I guess that's
Poughkeepsie.
what?
Yay, Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, really, yay, Poughkeepsie. So that's about everything I have to say. Any questions?
Okay, let's see if anybody's got any questions. No, nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Does anybody want to know anything? You got to unmute and let us know.
I just wanted to say her work is beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's beautiful.
Well, I like it. I guess if you don't like your own stuff, well, I don't know.
Charlotte, do you think she answered your questions, or is something that
yeah.
she missed?
Whoops. Yeah, she actually did answer my questions pretty well. I was going to say to Tina, she should come to the paint and sip sometime when we go back to having a big group or that, because you'll learn, she'll teach you how to do things.
Yeah.
Great. I
Ilga
definitely
and
want to come back.
Ilga and I run a paint and sip usually once a month, but we're really not doing it right this minute. Other than, actually, I have 2 students on Saturday morning. I'm good with taking 2 students here and that's it. So I have openings for there, but we'll probably start up the regular paint and sip as soon as we can get back to some kind of normal, you know, place where people aren't uncomfortable with, you know, that there's enough distancing, and who knows if we have to wait till the summer. We did it outside last year a couple times and that was kind of fun.
That was popular too.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do it again. You figure in the spring, that's the general plan, right?
Well, whenever
When it
we're
works out.
allowed and whenever
Sure.
it's safe again.
Open mic in our classes will start in the spring.
It will.
Okay.
We got the
Yeah.
virus coming.
That's
I
right,
mean,
the
the
vaccine is here.
Vaccine.
Vaccine is here. Plus, you know, if it gets warm enough outside, then you could do it outside if you had to anyway. If
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it was nice outside, actually.
What?
I thought it was very nice outside.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun. It was fun.
Did you have any trouble with like the paint drying too fast or anything from the air?
Yeah, acrylic dries quickly, but
A little faster, but
our classes were a little bit shorter too. We only had a 50-minute class as opposed to 2.5 hours, which is what we do in the gallery. So we did shorter paintings, and that kind of made up for the fact that the acrylic dries pretty quickly. So that's our story here. Come and visit us.
I have a question, Liz.
What?
What is your favorite medium? What do you really find a lot of joy doing?
I love the paint. I did love the oil so much, but like I said, I don't use them anymore. The acrylics, you can get a lot of the same effects. The only thing is that you don't get the see-through of the oil one on top of the other. And there's something about an oil painting that's, so beautiful. But I also like clay, which I learned for the first time that Carl hates. And so, and I'm always experimenting too. So what I like today might be something else tomorrow. Thanks for coming, Arlene.
Jeff, that I left out.
Oh, Carl has something else to
I
say.
got one thing, when I was saying how long it took me to carve the stone, now, today, as of now, I can start a piece and I can be done in, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks. I could do a fairly decent sized piece. Maybe 3 weeks, it depends. So there's a big change from when I first started out. That's it.
Yes, thank you for answering that more even, Carl.
How long have you been teaching, Liz?
About 30 years. Yeah. And I went back to school when I was a little bit older than most kids nowadays. So you can tell how old I am.
There you go.
I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get a year younger in 2 days, right?
Mhm. Yeah, a year younger in 2 days. Thank you.
I want to take some.
Any other questions or comments or?
Oh, I got a question,
Okay.
Liz.
What?
You said carve. What do you mean by carve on those? I lost that somewhere.
Well,
You was talking about carving it. What do
yeah,
you use?
because there's a metal piece.
Yeah,
And then there's a ground over it.
yeah.
So you have to carve through that ground
Is it etching?
in order to
Yeah.
remove the ground. So that's what we call
So what do you
carving.
use? What do you use?
Oh,
What tools?
they're different tools. So some of them are pointed like what you have.
Yeah,
Some of them are, flat edged that you scrape through.
yeah.
So there are a lot of different tools. On the lithograph, when you're on the stone, you're using a greasy type of a pencil or material.
Now, when you polish that stone, did you do it by hand? Or did you use a machine?
This thing?
Yeah. The stone itself, you said you had to rub it
Oh.
down and wet it.
Oh, no, it had that big circular thing with the grit underneath it that you
What do
had
mean by
to.
it? Is it a motor driven or?
No, it's all
Because I have tools that.
muscle.
Well, if you want to do that, I have tools.
I don't want
that
to do that.
With electric.
No. I think
Or
I'm,
half hour.
yeah, all right. Yeah, that
Saved a lot of work.
was really hard work. But anyway, the metal that thing that you had to use to grind with was about this wide and about this round, and it had a handle on it, and it rotated.
Huh.
But you rotated it over the stone.
That's what they used to do years back in the Renaissance time, when they did terrazzo floors. If anyone knows what terrazzo is, it's marble, chips, and cement, and they polish it. We used to do that. It's all done by machine. But in the Renaissance, they did it like that by hand. They all worked on their knees and they rubbed that until it came out. They would mix pure cement and marble chips. And then they would polish it. And those marble chips would start to show. They changed the number of the stones from, I'd say from 100. And then they go all the way up to maybe, say 1,000, 800, whatever it was, 600 to get that polish. I never did it that way.
What does that mean?
That's the old way.
I
Well,
don't understand what you're saying. The
the-
numbers.
the grit.
Oh, the
They
grit,
gotta grit
okay.
The sharpness of the stone.
Okay.
Use a rough stone, a finer. That's just the way
It's
I
like your
polish
tools.
now.
Yeah.
I do that now. I polish, but we use different stuff today. Those they did it all by hand on their knees for hours. You go to the
Well,
Vatican, you see all that stuff.
I know, I've been
So
there.
your show is open all the way to the end of January.
Me and Liz. yeah.
Stop by till the end of January.
Yep, and plus the rest of our gallery, this is just one room that you've heard about. We
Right.
have 4 more rooms full of art for you to see from our 18 members. So
Thank you.
if you get the chance, come on over.
Barb, that sounds great. I was wondering how long this was open to show.
Yep, through till the end of January, or I think what the last Sunday in January.
Oh, yeah, we got to get in to see it.